Wade is guarding Bryant. Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! He banks in the three! And the Lakers win the game!
Good morning, Syndicate members. What is going on, man? Live from Austin, Texas. Here we are. Me and that guy, Joe Campert, the king
Let's go.
of trucking insurance. He is the man. He's also the king of Facebook groups. What is happening? Dude, we got a jamming show today. I'm pumped.
We do. I'm excited, man. The energy is like boom. I love that intro, man. It always gets me. And I am excited. Shout out to Arturo too. We'll bring him on here in a sec, guys. But he had a quick assist and hopped in short notice, and we're super excited to have him and just everything he's going to share with you guys. Quick weekly wins, though. And if you got a good weekly win, not even a good weekly win, you just have a weekly win, put that in the comments. We want to see that. We want to get you up on the show, celebrate with you. I have so many weekly wins. Even kind of going back. No, I'm sharing them all, dude. And it started with, not necessarily started with, but our conversation that we were having yesterday, kind of later in the afternoon, and just really, I'm feeling super blessed and just thriving, dude. And so we just got our new magazine in. I got to give a shout out to Reminder Media. Luke Akery, he runs our Monday Mindset show. Just got my new magazine in, which is this one is
version running.
Oh, you did? Is it the Spanish one yet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love it, dude. And it's amazing quality. Always just super clean, crisp, and I love giving that out to referral partners. And this one actually has worked. It's going to work really well for our real estate connections. Just as you can see, literally Southern makeover. So it's got some design stuff in it. Obviously, the tear out cards. Trying to think about softball. That was freaking awesome. We started some new live inbound leads with Victor Gonzalez this past week. And then I have to give a shout out to my girl Celeste. I told her I'd give her a shout out for PNC agents. If you are doing anything outbound effort-wise, you need to talk with Celeste over with Team Cody Askins. Well, she's on the secure agent marketing side. I just picked up 1,000 freaking age data leads. And I'm thinking, okay, age data, basically give me something so that I can reach out to these people, right? And it's really, you're asking a lot of questions. Y'all, name, date of birth, address, credit, their year, make, model, VIN numbers for all the vehicles. They've got all of the drivers' names and date of birth and license numbers, and they have all the freaking homeowners insurance information too, like dwelling coverage, bathrooms, all that square footage, all that good stuff. So if you guys are looking for some age data, they're 2 to 90 days old. So we're super excited. We're throwing those into the CRM today. And we're just rocking and rolling, man. I'm having a great week. And again, just I feel like we're thriving, man. We're just ramping up, and especially on the PNC side, you're supposed to be slowing down. Man, we have just picked up on some momentum, and so feeling super blessed. And so I know that's a lot. Sorry, guys, but I'm having a great week.
Awesome,
sir.
It's similar, and I appreciate that you brought up our conversation yesterday afternoon, because we were having that conversation of how for both of us, ever since we created this office, we both jumped in together. We're sharing a space together. The trajectory for both of us is really elevated. And for a weekly win for me, I've got a good one. You guys may remember this. There was several episodes ago. I mean, this was numerous episodes ago, and I brought it up. I plugged it on one of Christian Brendel's podcasts too, but there was a product right before I left Precision Senior Marketing that I had my hand in developing, and that product released yesterday. It's a hospital indemnity product, which is hot for the Medicare Advantage space. Usually any agent out there that's selling Medicare Advantage, the next product that they're offering to that consumer is a hospital indemnity product, because it helps tighten up all the copays that are inside that MA product. So I had helped develop this product with United Healthcare and Golden Rule, and released yesterday for recruiting. It's been a little overwhelming, but it's nice to see it hit the shelf with the design pieces that I threw in it. So super excited about it. The
That's
big
cool.
design piece that's unique to it. I mean, there's quite a few things. One, the premiums are hyper competitive on it. But the other big deal that no other hospital indemnity product has, and this was Merwin's idea, was to add a Part B drug rider for people that are getting outpatient drugs. And no other hospital indemnity covers that. And that's one of the biggest gaps in Medicare Advantage plans. And now they can get something like $500 cash payment anytime they go in to get
That's sick.
radio, chemo, allergy injections, Botox injections, any kind of med that's administered by that doctor. It helps cover that cost for them. So super, super hot product, man.
Comes full circle too. That's got to be cool to see kind of your hand in the works or in the mix in that too, where it's like,
absolutely,
oh, that was
man.
me.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
So
especially at a product level.
It was funny because it took a while. Like I remember after we kind of put the design in play, and then I left PSM, and I was wondering, man, are they ever going to actually release that, or did that thing die? And then I got a call yesterday. I was like, hey, it's rolling out today. So get excited.
I love that. I love that. And guys, we're getting ready to, speaking of excited, we're getting ready to bring Arturo on here. As we're getting ready to bring him on, please make sure and let StreamYard view your comments. And those, even if you did it one time, sometimes it does expire. So go ahead and get that done for us, just so that we can get you up on the show instead of being an anonymous Facebook user. But we were talking earlier about, well, really, we were talking about conversation. We're talking about relationship and really and thriving. And we're also, I was talking about leads. Well, between those three things, I think we have the Rainmaker himself. We have,
yes. Let's go, baby.
All about that. So what's going on, my man?
What's going on, man? Definitely happy to be here. And I'm glad that you guys were able to share your wins, because it just got me fired up. And so I guess I'll just jump right into. So a couple wins for me. Personal win, got the kids back to school. So I have 17-year-old in her senior year. So obviously you can see my hair's falling out. So, but I still have some. So that's definitely a win. And going into a senior year and prom, I'm just thinking about the money I'm gonna have to spend. So I'm gonna be working really hard. So I may be texting you guys asking to borrow a couple dollars toward the end of the year for all the stuff I'm gonna have to pay for. And then I have a 2-year-old son. He's going to private school. So that's always a blessing. Starting his first full kind of week of that. And then on the business side, one of my clients, shout out to Joshua Bostic. He was at SWAT when I first met you. And he said he was kind of the black sheep of his agency when we were talking. And I was like, well, what do you think is kind of missing? He was like, man, I just haven't found somebody that could really help me with what I need and, help them with some mindset stuff. He bought some leads from me, and that was okay. But it gave him some faith and trust, like, okay, some ability to believe in himself. And then from there, he joined one of our coaching programs. And in the first 30 days, he wrote like 36,000.
Wow.
Like something insane. And you don't expect something like that to happen. So it was like, when he said it, I was like, whoa, we can't gloss over that. I was like, what's the most you've ever written? He's like, oh, I probably think I had like $10,000, something like that. I'm like, dude, what's that like? He's like, it's still kind of surreal. I still don't believe it. People are like messaging me, hitting me up, and I'm still kind of like in shock. So that was one win. And then the biggest win is Edward Pritchett just joined our agency accelerator program, which is dope because he's someone that I looked up to that got me into, wanting to speak on stage at 8%. And I saw him speak at the SWAT event, and he and I got to meet, connect, and I met his dad and everything. So having Edward to come through was pretty awesome. A huge win for us for partnerships, brand, and just being around some good, smart people. You know what I mean?
Homie's a big baller. Like,
for sure. So that was pretty dope.
Yeah, Pritchett's probably the most impressive person I've ever met in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, Yale graduate,
right? Chemical engineer turns insurance agent because of a situation with his mom that paid out a life insurance claim and helped out his family. And that was when he woke up. He's like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to help families like that.
Yeah,
and
mentor, speaker, coach. I mean, just the little bit of coaching that he gave me when I was speaking on stage at 8%. It allowed me to change the way I was kind of approaching my process and made it so easy. And I don't know how you guys thought I did, but it really was something super smooth for me. And so from that, I just had some momentum, doing some podcasts. So I'm just excited to ride that wave as we go into the end of the year.
Absolutely,
I thought
man.
you did
go
great
ahead and
this year. I thought you were
and
extremely
you
well
did kill it.
received. I
Well,
thought you were extremely well received. A lot of people really enjoyed your talk. It was great. And we certainly appreciated your presence hanging out with us in the suite and at the private party and everything. So,
that's one of my favorites. So I remember meeting Joe, and we just hit it off like that, right? It was just like I met him at SWAT, and we just got to talking. We were talking about Kobe and some jerseys and stuff like that, and we hit it off, and then connected again at the suite, which was pretty awesome. You guys, man. You guys know how to do it, man. Hamadi, who's one of our clients, and a lot of his downlines are in my program, and he comes and speaks at my mastermind. He texts me and say, Arturo, you need to come over here. And so, of course, I'm like, I want to meet the people. And I get over to the house, and I'm like, what is going on? Right. And just the energy in there and the conversations. And, I shared a video on my story, which was pretty freaking dope. But man, getting to spend some like real time. It's not like just on social media, like spending hours hanging out, shaking hands, talking about things, business, personal, faith, all of those things. That's where it's at, man. And getting together. And I think since coming out of the C19 era, getting back to that, there's nothing that beats that relationship when you actually like, I actually met that person, shook his hand. That person's the real deal. So it was definitely good to meet you guys. And man, the whoever it was that was, and I don't remember his name, whoever cooked the barbecue or whatever that was.
Davin, right? In his name, Davin. Shout out to Davin.
That's my buddy.
Holy smokes.
I've known that dude since I was probably 8 or 9 years old. Like we go way back in our history. We went to church together, and he's become a master chef or executive chef is his level. He used to be a corporate guy. Like he ran the entire campus for Exxon Mobil in Houston. Like, I don't know, 1,200 employees. He's running the entire kitchen, the entire operation. He got tired of corporate and said, you know what, I'm just going to go start creating my own craft barbecue and sell it out of my food truck or my tents or whatever. And so I said, hey, if you're not busy on Friday, how'd you like to come get overpaid and cook for a bunch of insurance agents? And he's like, sounds great.
Decision. Great call.
Yeah, good call.
We'll be having him back.
Well, dude, Arturo, real quick, man, for those that haven't been following you or looking to follow you, just 30,000 foot overview, man. Who are you? Kind of what do you do? And then we'll kind of get into the weeds.
Okay, cool. So just the really short version, because I don't want to bore you guys. So originally from Chicago, moved to Nashville 2001, went to college here. Got my insurance license back in 2004, and then was in and out of the business. Got up to like a district sales coordinator with Aflac selling supplemental and life insurance policies. But the cool thing happened is when I went to first get licensed, I failed the health part. So initially, the only thing I could sell was life insurance. And back then, well, in Tennessee, if you fail one part of it, you got to wait 30 days and pay and take it again. So the first stint to my career, the only thing I could sell was life insurance, right? And so I immersed myself in that. And I was like, oh, well, this pays out more, and everybody's going to die, so I should be able to talk through some of this. So that's how I kind of cut my teeth. But life insurance has always kind of been around me. So my mother used to always tell this story that every time in Chicago, they would go to the drive-in. And for some of you that don't know what that is, it's a theater that's outside where you pull up your car and you put this speaker in your window, and you can stay in your car and watch the movie, and you can bring your own snacks and blankets and stuff and kind of have a picnic.
Watch the movie?
Yes.
I thought you were supposed to just make out.
Well, see, back then I was young, so I wasn't driving.
Yeah,
so,
come on. We got kids watching this, man.
Yeah, for sure. So, but my mother would always complain about my grandfather having to stop somewhere every time they were going to go out to dinner or go to the drive-in. And what I realized is that he was a debit man. So he would have to go to the house and collect the premiums before they went somewhere as a debit man. So insurance has already been around me and in my blood. And so from there, I was kind of in and out. I was in the service industry for like 10 years. And then 2015, my mom got sick. I moved her down here from Nashville. Took her to church one day and rekindled with a friend that I went to college that I met back in 2001. And he was in financial services again, gave me his card. I called him, and then the rest was history. So I jumped back in a little bit more mature, a little bit more serious, with a little bit of a bigger focus, because if it wasn't for my mom having some plans in place, she wouldn't be here, because she had started to outstay her coverage for health insurance and stuff like that. And most people don't know there's a limit to how long you can stay in the hospital before they're like, you need to start paying 20% of that. And that's why I learned the ins and outs of the health insurance through going through it, which was, oh, yeah, 20%, sure, no problem. Wait a minute. That's every day I have to pay this. And so if she didn't have something in place, I wouldn't have been able to keep her in extended care the way she needed. And so that was my why when I got back into the business. And so that's when it really took off. And so from 2015 to like 2018, I was doing insurance, and then I transitioned into coaching. So everything kind of that happened was a problem that I was trying to solve that took me to the next level or to the next step. And so as an insurance agent, I was just frustrated. Leads, upline, mentorship, and it was like I always had 2 out of the 3 things I needed, right? Like I had mentorship, but I didn't have a full blown system for leads, or I had leads and I had a system, right? But I didn't have a mentorship. I just felt like I just never had it. And it was just because my mentor was trying to build his business at the same time. And he brought me in to try to be self-sufficient, but he didn't have enough time to pour into me. And I took that frustration, and I'm almost done. I took that frustration. I was like, if I can figure out how to self-gen to get leads for myself, I know there's a lot of people in my office that are probably having the same issue, then I could probably, do something with this. So I figured it out, cracked the code, taught it to another young man in my office, and end up, setting like 93 appointments from social media and sitting with the medical professionals that was averaging about $85,000 to $150,000 a month. And now I got my upline's attention, right? He's showing up to meetings and talking to people who are medical doctors at Michigan University, people at MD Anderson in Houston making $500 to $1 million a year. And so I was like, okay, so now that I figured this out, I need to figure out how to do this on social. And so from there, I transitioned into consulting. And now, man, since 2018, probably helped over 1,000 agents and, just getting started. But now people are starting to recognize things, Edward Pritchard's of the world, Integrity Partners, having people like Cody invite us to come and speak on stage, 8%, John Wetmore, all of these people. So yeah, that's kind of my journey since 2001.
Awesome.
I love it, dude. What a quick total just squirrel question here. Where'd Rainmaker come from? How did you come up with the name Rainmaker? I'm just curious.
Yes. So that's a great question, man. So Rainmaker is like when I embody or see somebody as a rainmaker, there's somebody that comes in and changes the atmosphere. They walk into a room, right, and they're the change. When you know that they're electric, right, and it's the personal, the spiritual, and their business, right, and so making it rain, right? It's something as strong as a force that can make it rain, right? When you come into the office, right? When you connect with somebody, you make it rain. And that's what we're looking for, is to have other people to make it rain every single day.
Yes.
Love that, dude.
Absolutely.
I love that. That's awesome. I wrote this down because, and it's kind of crazy. I feel like, and this is like life insurance, this is just insurance as a whole. A lot of the times when we're going out and recruiting, some of the best people that we could recruit, right, they're in the service industry. So you said you're in the service industry for 10 years, and
Yes.
then I think you had already been licensed, and then service industry, and then kind of getting back into it.
Yeah.
Anything that you picked up in the service industry that transitioned into you being a better life insurance salesman or anything? I'm just curious because, like, the bartenders are freaking awesome because they can talk to everybody, right?
Exactly.
Like, they have no problem.
Yeah. So this is probably a writer downer. So if you guys are listening to this, you might want to get a pen and a piece of paper because you might not have heard this before. So there's 4 levels of value. Okay. And you think about it like a triangle and you throw 3 lines in the middle of it. The first level of value is implementation. And this is the lowest level of value. And this is where you trade your time for money. So people get up, they go to work, right? They have a wage and they get paid for that wage, right? The second level of value is unification. And this is where you manage people's time, right, that are trading their time for dollars. So you get paid a little bit more than those people. And you're not necessarily trading all your time for dollars. You're managing other people's implementation to make sure that they hit a quota. And the funny thing about that is above that, which is level 3, which is communication, this is where wealth starts to be generated. This is where you can create wealth. And that's communication. And that's what I learned being in the service industry, which is communication, right? And this is where you use your mouth to make money, right? This is where you use your words to change people's world. And this is communication. And what happened is in the service industry, and I'll get to number 4, just wait just a second. What the service industry is, I was able to communicate with so many people over 10 years. I can't even tell you how many people I talked with, built a quick relationship, was able to understand different types of personalities to be able to see them. And if you've never done it before, 16 personalities, you can start to understand that there's a certain level of behavior for these different buckets of personalities. And so in my brain, this is how I was able to drop buckets and be able to connect with people really quickly. And I think Andy Elliott talks about this a lot, is mastering the stranger, right? And mastering means being comfortable just communicating with people you don't know, and you're able to be interested in them and get them to like you. So communication, right? And that's what sales professionals are. That's why that industry is that. Life insurance makes the most millionaires of any industry. And what happens is you have to get good at communication if you want to make money and become wealthy, right? And so then the 4th level is imagination. And this is where you use your mind, right?
Like that.
And money to make money, right? So if I have my phone, right, like probably a few years ago, somebody decided that this thing right here would be the most used device in the world, that it would be something that could fit in your pocket and people would be on it all the time, and full-blown adults, if they just think they left it somewhere for a second, would freak out. And it would have your banking, GPS, your calendar. You would run your business from it. You would use it to type more than you would talk. And if people called you, you wouldn't be able to get a hold of them, but you respond faster through written words, which takes a little bit more effort. And this would be the way that we would connect the whole world. And so somebody had an imagination that this would be something that would happen. And so that's the highest level of value. So the 4 levels of value is implementation, unification, communication, and imagination.
It's good, man.
Love it.
That's
Have
good.
you, just out of curiosity, because you brought up a great point with the whole phone thing there, have you seen the new BlackBerry movie?
I have not.
Dude, it's out. It's really good, number 1. But those were the original guys that had the vision, right? And they started to create that BlackBerry, which became the Crackberry that everybody wanted.
Yeah,
the whole story is phenomenal to hear, to follow it. And
that's awesome.
I think it's on Amazon if I remember right, but I might be off. Maybe it's on Netflix. But it goes through it in really good detail, and then obviously Apple comes in behind them and makes it better. But same thing, like Steve Jobs had a vision. And one of the things that, just to kind of carry on this a little more, one of the things I loved about Steve Jobs' imagination is that when he looked at building a product or creating a solution, he built it, he reverse engineered it from what does the end user need, and then let me build a product that meets those needs, versus the other solution, which is let me build a product and force people to use it. Right? You need this. Like these are the, so it's a lot of times we have to think about the end user when we're creating, even as an insurance agent, right? You discover their risk, you find out what their needs are, and then you create a package that's going to meet those needs. You're creating that solution for it. And you can certainly take that kind of mentality and that thought process to it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think I want to stick on the imagination piece. Kind of incorporates to some of the stuff that we talk about with House of Dreams, which is just kind of our framework for success here at Redwood. Arturo, I'll have to go through that with you at some point, man. I think you'd really like it. But, imagination, I break it down to an idea, right? And I think I want to take this moment to encourage agents that I think a lot of the times we have a really good idea, and then it doesn't pan out, right? So then we just don't use our imagination anymore, right? Because, my ideas are shit, right? They just don't ever work out. And I think, for me, it's not that the idea is bad. We hark on this a lot. It's not that it was a bad idea. It was just the wrong time, right? And so just really, I want to take this moment to encourage people that, hey, it could have been a really good idea, right? And you might have just been trying to execute it at the wrong time, right? And in insurance, it's never a matter of if, right, guys? You all know it. I say it all the time. It ain't a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? It's and that's, I really, I think a lot of agents give up on their ideas, or they just think they're shit, whatever, because they've had a couple downfalls, whatever. But I think it's so important to really, I love that you said that, because that imagination piece, man, you start getting imaginative, like you can start making money in all kinds of different ways, man. And you can do it all within insurance, right? I wanted to ask real quick. I haven't heard this. The 16 personalities. What's that? Yeah. Can you break some of that down?
Myers-Briggs thing,
yes, it's a Myers-Briggs test.
Okay.
And what this does is like psychographics, right? And so this all comes into the communication thing and understanding and persuasion, because I feel like a lot of times to be successful is kind of a simple formula for sales, business, and life in general, right? You need the right mindset, you need the right skill set, and you need the right tool set. And so the first piece is you need to understand yourself before you can influence anybody. You need to be able to influence yourself, right? And so there's a shift and a change that you need to make if you want to go from waiting tables to running a multi 7-figure business, almost 8-figure business by the end of 2023, which is if you continue to operate as that person, right? Like you're probably going to get the same results, right? That's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. So there's a shift that you have to make. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to have an understanding before you can have a change. So 16 personality gives you a baseline of an understanding of who you are as a person, what you think, and the things that kind of trigger and operate. And it gives you your strengths and weaknesses based off of a huge data point of studies. And this is eye-opening because now you can start to understand things that trigger people, to things that influence people. And then if you're a leader, things that you can use to celebrate people in the way that they like to be celebrated. So me taking that, I'm like, oh, well, I've seen 16 personalities 16,000 times, right? From waiting tables and being in the service industry. You talk to so many people, especially in Nashville, man, during CMA Fest or something like that. There's just hundreds of thousands of
different people.
Yeah, so you're having conversations. But when I took that for the first time, it blew my mind because I was like, how does this thing know that much and how accurate it was? And then I had everybody on my team take it. So everybody in my Slack channel has their first, last name, and then the 4 letters for their Myers-Briggs test, right?
Okay.
And what that is,
so it is the DISC test. Is that what this?
It's like that.
It's
just similar personality test. Yes.
Okay.
So that part. But why is that important? Because if communication is one of the highest levels of value, you need to be able to communicate with people on a wavelength that they can understand and that can get them to take action. And so you need to understand those things. And then the change, right? The mindset, which is in order for things to change, you got to change, in the words of Jim Rome. So, right, if you want something to work out, usually it's a tweak or shift, right, in your mindset, your skill set, or your tool set. Some people have a negative mindset, right? They're always pessimistic about every single thing. Well, any imaginative, inventive person has an optimistic personality, right? In the future, that something crazy is going to work. You can't be a pessimist and do something like that. Then the skill set. Most people, particularly insurance agents I work with, they learn one skill, watch one presentation, have one script, and they just practice that over and over again repeatedly, right? But they don't level up their skill set in the sales training. And that's where you need mastery, right? Kobe Bryant, last few seconds of a game, he pulls up at the elbow, drains the shot with 2 people on him. He never sees this person, and he drains that shot. You know why? It's because he's practiced that shot over and over in multiple different scenarios, right? And that's mastery.
That's good.
So what is mastery? Mastery is to effortlessly execute without the use of conscious resources. And what I know about insurance agents is a lot of times they can't handle these 2 objections, which is I need to think about it or I need to speak to a partner or spouse, and they haven't mastered those. And just doing those 2 things would then give them the right skill set of practice, and then they will have mastery. And then tool set. Sometimes you just got to pay for the tool set, whether it's getting your license, whether it's getting in a coaching program or going to an event, right? You need to get around other people to maybe get some belief. And I know this for a fact that most human beings have the most resistance when it comes to buying something. Everybody's all in, right? Everybody loves you until you're like, hey, I started a business. You want to come support this? Or, hey, do you want to be a sponsor of this? Or, hey, do you want to buy insurance, right? Like when you got to get your Power 200. Yeah, I got this list of everybody. They're going to buy insurance from you, right? And so sometimes with the tool set, you got to pay for it. So mindset, skill set, tool set.
I like that, too. I love the communication piece, man. Communication is so incredibly important because if you can't communicate, whether it's verbally or written, you can't encourage people, you can't persuade people, you can't influence people, you can't celebrate people, right? And that's the whole, like when I was teaching public speaking classes, one of the biggest things that I've learned or that I've taught and kind of learned as well through it is that public speaking gives you the ability to motivate people to make change. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a motivational speaker that gets people to make change in their life. But as a salesperson, if you can't speak properly, you can't motivate them to make a change and pull out their checkbook and buy insurance from you or whatever it may be. It's the same concept. So communication's huge, man. I feel you because I spent 5 years in the service industry and then I spent another 3.5 banging on doors, talking to 100 people every day from all over the world. I mean, not all over the world, but all over the U.S., traveled all over the place, banging on doors, doing that. And so that repetition over and over and over, day in and day out, 6 days a week. My mouth's my moneymaker, baby.
Yeah, for sure.
I got it trained.
Yes, I can attest to that, guys. The guy knows how to talk, which is probably, I mean, so do I. So that's probably why me and Tony are good buds. But I think I wanted it really good. And I've never heard this before, but guys, because we're living in this digital world, I love that on your Slack channel, you have that presented, because again, it's you got a bunch of keyboard warriors, right? Or one, you could use a period instead of an exclamation point and piss somebody off based off their personality, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's actually really smart to have, because then everybody on the team is like, okay, hey, here's how I need to approach this person again to activate them, to get them to execute, or really just to speak to them in a way that they want to be spoken to, right?
Yeah.
I thought
so
that
coach
was really
is a big
good,
thing
man.
with that part too. So like when we hire anybody, that's the first thing we want to do is like with business, you're trying to make sales and you're trying to grow a team or whatever it is. But if the culture is not a good fit, like it doesn't matter how good the things is, it's not going to work, right? You see it in basketball all the time, right? The Philadelphia 76ers the Philadelphia Eagles a few years ago, they put this team together. It was super stacked. They were in the beginning of the year, they were talking about winning the Super Bowl. Well, they just put those guys together. There was no culture. We've seen it with Kevin Durant in the last couple of years and James Harden, like all these things. Just putting talent together sometimes isn't always the answer, right? I mean, the Warriors, they added Andrew Wiggins, right? Probably didn't live up to his hype, but he ended up winning the championship because they had the right culture. And so I say all that to say is like when I'm looking to hire somebody and vet them out, yes, I want them to have all the things that you're looking for a sales professional, but I want to see if this person is a good fit, right? If somebody's an introvert and you're trying to get them to go door to door to sell life insurance, it's probably not going to work, right?
Right.
Maybe they're an admin person. Maybe they have a skill set to doing some other things. And so a lot of times, in your organization, it's just understanding the personnel that you have, right?
Right. And that's, so let's pivot to this, because I think this is a great freaking point. And I think even though obviously you're coaching and consulting now and doing all that, I think it will apply to anybody that's really trying to build an agency, hire people, recruit, what you name it, right? And I know we'll get into that and kind of how, but where did you develop the skill set for mentorship, right? To be able to kind of take on that leader. Because I think I've seen that with a lot of agents is maybe they want to build, but then they don't feel as though they're not confident enough to be that mentor to a downline, right? Or to pour into them. Or what were some things that you did to really develop that skill set? You're talking about skill set earlier, to allow you to sit in that seat and do so, effectively.
So the first thing is before you can be an effective leader, you have to be an effective follower, right? So a lot of times, Tony Robbins says that, if you want to have success, the only thing you need to do is find somebody that's having the success you want to do and model them. So the most effective way to become a leader is to get around other people that are good leaders and get around them now with the digital age, right? You have books, YouTube, courses, going to masterminds, being in Facebook groups, going to events. You have to put yourself in a position to learn from other people because they've already figured out and done it. So you don't need to figure it out. You just need to learn the best practices of what to do and other things not to do. So that's what I did, man. I invested probably over 150 grand every single year in the coaching and consulting, right? For myself, mentorship. I'm in masterminds. I'm in these groups. I'm learning all of the things I can learn from everybody because everybody leads and has their own style. And I'm trying to pick up the best components from everything. And I'm looking at people that are following them, right? The way they say this, the way they operate their business like this. And so I just made sure I was a good student. I am 100% one of the biggest students of the game or whatever I'm doing, right? And so that's what I did is I just got around other people that were having success and I just listened and followed them, put my ego on the shelf, right? And I took the good and left the bad.
That's good. That's good, man. I was just curious on that. Well, and I love that we're chilling on skill set because I want to kind of go here for the tail end of the show is just kind of talking about lead gen and everything. And honestly, even if you want to kind of share some of the stuff you spoke about from 8%, because I think there's a lot of good gold nuggets in there too. But let's talk about lead gen. And honestly, let's kind of, I know why you started, right? It's because, hey, that was just one missing piece, or I was tired of crappy lead, whatever it is, right? So I'm going to generate them myself, right?
Yeah.
Talk about how. I mean, I don't know how else to keep it or how else to put it, but like, how did you get into lead gen, and what are the he spent over $1 million in ad spend. Like, why the paid route versus the organic route? Are you doing both? Just talk about, I mean, it's kind of broad, but just talk about just lead gen and everything you got going on that side.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just start with kind of the philosophy on it. So, there's multiple ways to grow a business, right? And some people have network and a personal brand or things of that nature, but I didn't have that. So when I was in insurance, when I got back in 2015, a lot of the guys coming out of college that were absolutely crushing it out the gate, because with the captive agency I was with, they had a network of doctors, dentists, people of that. Well, I didn't have that because I was coming out of the service industry. And so when I tried to use my Power 200 to get clients in my warm market or organically on social, all those people were in the service industry. And the challenge is that they didn't have the money. They just didn't want to spend their money on that. So I was like, okay. So I had to get out of my warm market as fast as possible. So the only way for me to do that was I was like, okay, I have to figure out something that's going to work, that I can create a message that was leveraged to get to take my message from one to many and get as many people that don't know me to start knowing me as fast as possible. And so that's when I went into using social media. So the way it all started was I got frustrated as a life insurance agent, and I'm sitting downstairs on my couch on like Christmas Eve, and I'm looking at my Facebook friends. I got about 2,000, 2,500. And I went to Fisk University, and right across the street is one of the top medical universities for African Americans in the U.S. And so I'm like, I bet you that I know a bunch of people that graduated or connected that also connected with people who are in the medical profession. And I know that in the ranks, there's mentorship. So if you're in residency, you have somebody that is about to graduate, and then somebody in resident has somebody that just got out of residency and has their own practice. So I did that and started connecting with people, and I was like, well, this is manual. I can't do this every single day because I'm using it. I'm like, okay, I wonder if there's a software to use. So then I started using LinkedIn automation at first, and I was like, okay, well, this works, but it was just too inefficient. So I'm like, okay, I wonder if I can take the same process and take it somewhere else. And that's when I learned Facebook advertising back in 2017. And then that's when I started using that to generate leads and stuff for myself. So I did it for myself first. And I think that one of the time, what happens is a lot of times people just like see something and they try it out and it works a little bit. But I mean, like you said, I spent millions of dollars on this, doing it for myself, and then getting results for other clients. So lead generation, to get back to lead generation, what you have to understand is if you don't like your business, the only thing you need to do is you need to change your customers. Right? If you're frustrated about what you're not making, right, or people not picking up the phone and not answering, then you need to really dissect, like, am I talking to the right people? Do these people actually want what I have? Do they see the need? Because there's no point to continue to chase people, right, that want to live, that are running into a burning building, right? That's just insane. That's just insane. So instead, how can we find people that are actually interested in looking for it and just have a conversation? They may not want to sell, but at least they're open to have a conversation, right? That's reasonable. Yeah. So if all I did was spend my day talking to people that are at least open to having a conversation about insurance, am I going to be in a better situation mentally and probably financially, as opposed to beating down the door or chasing people down? And yeah, I know I need this, but right, blah, 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 blah. And that's frustrating. Right. And I know in this industry, insurance agents don't really get burnt out on certain things. They get tired of wasting their time. Yeah. You know what I mean? They just get frustrated and exhausted. It's like, I'm spending all this time and nothing's happening. So that's the importance of the lead gen piece. And so we just teach it in a couple core processes. Is you need to have a niche, right? You need to know who you're talking to. You need to get specific on that. And the reason why that's important is because you want to be seen as the go-to person or expert, that people will come to you for something. You want to be known for that. And that's where your brand is. So when you hop around a bunch, you do all of this work over here, and then you leave it for somebody else, right? And you move out of your spot that you've built all this time and effort to build your brand, right? Okay. Brand is everything. It's like, which is why you don't see a Rolls-Royce commercial, right? They have built so much brand equity, the highest level of I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but excellence, yes, right, and wealth presented, that their brand speaks for themselves. And so you want to be synonymous with the thing that you do. And if you keep hopping around, right, going from niche to niche, or final expense, mortgage protection, IULs, Medicare, all these things, people watch that online too. Oh, this person was just doing that, and it confuses the people, and like, and so that kind of keeps them resistant from working with you. So it's picking a niche, right? Who you serve, being able to clearly articulate who you serve. Then the next piece is the skill set, right? You need to have a proven process that you can take a stranger and turn them into a paying client in one process, right? So you need to make sure that you have systems in place, you have a script, you got CRMs, and then that you practice to level up your skills every single day. So you're not the same agent that was saying the same thing, you've been in business for 20 years, and you're still using that style, because people are more sophisticated. Our buyers are more sophisticated these days, right?
Right.
Definitely. The whole, so some of that stuff doesn't work anymore. And then the tool set, you need to make sure that you're investing in something that's going to get you a minimum of a 3 to 10x return. And why 3x? Because if you're just getting a 1x or 2x, right, like you might be losing money because of other things, taxes, the chargebacks, like all of these other expenses, business overhead, right? Things not paying out right away. So you want to make sure that you have a little bit of a buffer in there.
Right.
And that's just the 3 kind of pillars that we go through is your niche, having a proven process, and then having a predictable system.
Absolutely. When it comes to the niche, like you brought up a great point, like know who your customer is, know who you're talking to. What are some of the factors, or maybe what's the thought process that you go through when you're identifying your perfect avatar?
Yes, I love this, man. So a couple of things is, so Occam's razor says that like usually the easiest, the best answer is usually the simplest one, which means that things that come easy to us, we take it for granted and think that everybody else has that same thing. So what I mean by that is a lot of times the niche or the group of people that you can go are probably people that if you've had a previous career in something, those chances are those people will see you as them, right? So skills that you have would be markets that you've already worked in before, right? Or things that you're already knowledgeable about that you can do inventory on, right? And then the skill sets that you generally have. So I was in the service industry before, and then I got into insurance. But now that I'm in coaching, there's a reason why I work with insurance agents, right? Because they see me as one of the guys. I know the lingo, I've done it. And now I'm helping those people, and I only work with those people. So that reduces the trust barrier, right? Because online today, trust is at an all-time low, and skepticism is an all-time high. Everybody thinks everything is a freaking scam. So how do you cut through that? You have to be synonymous, right? You have to be seen as somebody that's one of them, and you have to be able to speak their language. And so that's how you pick a niche, is the skills that you have, previous markets that you've worked in, and then your previous skill sets.
Now that obviously makes super sense when it comes to recruiting, right?
Yeah, 100%.
At least in my mind, or even in consulting.
It works. That's a principle. So that's a principle for everything. And that's one of the things that like a lot of times you talked about the BlackBerry thing, and then you talked about Steve Jobs. So that's a principle. He uses first principles theory, right? Where he breaks it down to the simplest form and keeps the things that you actually need and gets rid of everything else, right? And so with the whole niche thing, the skill set, the previous industry, and then and then things that you're interested in, you can use that in recruiting also. Because the thing about principles in physics is if every principle is a microcosm of itself. So if it works, the same principles that work in making a plane fly also work in making your business successful, right? So
I like that.
Yeah, so if you focus on the principles, right, you can never go wrong, because principles work whether you like them or not. They work whether you believe they do or not, right? They're either working for you or against you, but they're working, and people don't realize it. So that's the thing that that's why we use the whole niche selection thing, is because that principle is always going to work. If you're working with somebody that's an insurance agent, right, chances are they're probably going to trust you more. If you work with somebody that's in real estate and you have an investing thing or something like that, they're probably going to be more prone to listen to you than some other Jack or Joe on the internet just talking about doing something that's never done it before. So it's an easy way to get people to at least listen to you and give you just a little bit of a benefit of doubt, and then you can earn the rest of their trust.
So I want to go back to, and I think this is a super valuable point to you guys. I hope you guys are taking notes. You guys see, I'm freaking taking notes because this is freaking gold. Again, I'm selfish on these shows, man. It's like, dude, I'm taking notes. This is really good. You talked earlier about how Kobe, and taking the shot, but it's because of the multiple scenarios that he put himself in, right? And so we kind of applied that to being able to overcome certain objections, right?
Yes.
What are things that you're putting in place with your clients, with your team, that are allowing them to go through multiple scenarios? Because again, the script is a script. That's great, guys, but your script is going to evolve. Our consumer is evolving. They're becoming more educated, right? And so that script that you had 20 years ago ain't still going to work. Now, there might still be some principles in it that work, right? But some of that lingo and, obviously we've gone through it, and we've been put in so many different scenarios that, hey, we kind of just developed it, because I've heard anything under the sun, dude, especially on the PNC side. You don't even want to know, but I know how to handle that. What are things you're doing with your team, with your clients on the consulting side, that are putting them into those scenarios to really to get the reps, to flex that muscle?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the number one thing is information. You want to make sure that you're always consuming information. And more importantly, you want to make sure you're consuming the right information. Is this still relevant? Because nowadays, something that was relevant even a year ago, right, isn't still the most up-to-date things, because things change. And so what we try to do is we use a community collaborative type of style for having success with my program. So just getting lead gen is just the first step of the business, right? Because then you got to master the communication, right? Do appointments. You got to actually get somebody to take action, right? And then it's like, what processes are you using to be the most effective? So how we do that is I'm just one part of the agent having success, which is we just make sure that you never have anxiety or worrying about getting leads and booking appointments. But that's just one piece of the business, right? You still got to manage it. You got to grow it. And so what we do is every Wednesday we have a collaborative call, somebody that's crushing it. So if Todd Hausberger did 100K in a week, right? The first thing we want to do is have him come on and share exactly everything we're doing. And we break it down, right? And we, just like you're doing right now, we don't stop until we get it all. And then we share that. So if you're doing something and you're not hitting 100K in a month, and Todd it's safe to say that you probably could shift to doing some of the things, maybe not hit 100K, but you could probably go from 10K to maybe 20K, right? And what happens is over time, you just have a collaborative library of all the things that are working every single day. And it's constantly up to date, because when you have 50 to 100 agents at a high level just producing, somebody's always having a win, or they always tried something else. And then we allow the environment for everybody to share, right? Like everybody's an expert. So we allow, if you're winning, to be able to share whatever it is that you have that's working. And when you have that environment, it removes the competition, right? Collaboration is the new currency. And so we're trying to make sure, which is why I'm doing this podcast, right? Trying to make sure everybody has the best information to have success.
Collaboration is the new currency.
I like it.
100%.
What do you coach people on communication much, or is it mostly just like how to run your business, like how to find your niches, how to lead gen? But I'm just kind of curious, because you bring up communication a lot. So I'm just kind of curious, are you coaching people at that level as well? Like how you say the words you need to say better?
People. Yeah, I coach a few people that are interested, but I mean, before I was on stage at 8%, I don't think most people saw me in that space in regards to that, or like doing some of these podcasts. So yeah, I do coaching in that scenario, and like it's a simple formula that I use for doing breakout sessions. Because huge tip is, like, if you weren't at any of those events, it's a huge opportunity for you to network and also grow your agency for two reasons. Well, three. One is, if somebody comes to one of those events, they're just a different type of individual. Would you guys agree, from SWAT and coming to 8%, like the energy of the people who are there is absolutely electric and insane. So if someone, I spoke to a young lady, amazing story. She had a couple tragedies that happened where her granddaughter and her daughter had passed away. And I met her on a Thursday, because I came on Thursday instead of Wednesday. And that Wednesday that the conference had just started, she had just passed her test and showed up to the 8% conference, right? So is that lady looking for a change, and she's going all out to play to win? Would you be fired up to coach her and want to see her have success? Absolutely. So what's my point is you get to the place where the believers are, the people that are looking for change, they're swimming towards you instead of you having to chase people down, right? Your ideal agent or people that you want to get around are going to be there, and they're all looking for the same thing. They're looking for one thing that can help take them to the next level. And so you want to surround yourself with those kind of people. And so that's why going to some of those events like that is going to be absolutely amazing for recruiting. It's a leverage thing. Like, you get to be around people and have connections and be in rooms where it allows you to be put into different opportunities. So bringing that back to the speaking thing, that was also one of the reasons why I kind of stepped out there to want to go and do some of that. Was because I wanted to get my name out there some more to build more of the brand. Like, who's this Arturo dude? I've been seeing his ads everywhere, but like, who actually is Arturo Johnson, you know?
That was me not too long ago. I mean, it was like, man, I ain't seen this dude everywhere. And now he's doing freaking coaching with Wetmore, and he's doing private retreats with Cody, and Cody's doing push-ups in his house or some shit, or so I can't remember what it was. And I was like, who is this guy, right? But I think it goes back to your point earlier of brand. You know, for me, like my jerseys and my Jordans, right? When I go to events, now it's to the point of if I'm not wearing that shit, I'm getting shit. They're like, dude, where's the jersey, man? They're like, if I'm wearing if anybody ever sees me in a suit, they're like, what the heck is going on, right? But it goes to the point of the brand. But then again, what is that brand associated with? Where it's like, hey, Joe's the PNC guy, right? And so that's, I think, when your brand elevates to that level, and again, known, and I'm not like tooting my own horn or anything. It's just because I go to a lot of shit and I'm that good at communicating, right? But I think what that when that brand is associated to a specific thing and people know that you do so of excellence, you don't even have to recruit, bro. They come to you,
right? They
walk up, hey, Arturo, who are you, dude? What do you do? Okay, let's hop on podcast, right? Let's talk some shop. Let's see what we're doing, right? And all it took was just being in the same freaking room. And that's, I think that just goes to show, even with you just now kind of stepping out and starting to do these speaking engagements and stuff like that, your brand it's already been established, right? And now again, these events are they're elevating it, right? They're you're getting in front of a new audience and taking it to a new level. So
I think being a rainmaker, Joe.
Yeah.
Person of interest.
Rainmaker. Yes. Yep. I love that, dude. It's good.
We have a question that came in from Mr. Josh Lippincott. How do you break down a defensive wall that everybody seems to put up?
Yeah. So, man, that's a good question. So, in something specific. So if you're like meeting with somebody like as a prospect or just like connect, I'm not sure, but I'll just say it was in a sales situation. Well, the first thing that most agents do is they're talking about their person, their process, and their pieces, how long they've been in business. And all of that stuff is about you, but the prospect, they don't care anything about that. The first thing they're thinking is, oh, here's Mr. Insurance Man. They're just here to get my money. That's like the first thing that people think. So you have to know going in that the buying resistance of any situation is already up here. This person's trying to get my money. So what you have to understand is that, like, if I had $1, the only reason I'm going to exchange this dollar with you is if the thing that you're offering seems more valuable than the dollar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? The thing that you're offering has to have more value than the dollar if I'm willing to change it. So if Joe has $1 and I have $10, I'm like, hey, Joe, I'm going to give you $10 for that dollar. Will you take it?
Yeah.
Okay. If you had $10 and I had a $100 bill, would you take that deal?
Yes.
And if it was 10,000, you had $10,000 and I had $1 million, I was going to say, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million. If you give me 10,000, would you take that deal?
Sign me up, baby.
Okay, cool. So the premise is you have to show people the value in the thing that's more intrinsically valuable than the thing you're trying to get from them. And the way that you do that is by asking good questions, understanding what's important to people, why it's important.
Yep.
Right. If they didn't, and what's the gap, right? Like, how long have they been trying to solve this? And what happens if this doesn't happen and everything stays the same? What type of position would they be in? Yeah. Right. So a lot of times sales professionals, they and especially people I meet with, sometimes they just talk about the return, like what they're going to get. And so there's two premises to this, which is the return on investment. But there's one thing that other agents don't talk about, which is the cost of inaction, which is the COI. Right? What is it going to cost you if you don't take action on this? How much is it costing you not to have the information? Right? If you want to make $50,000 a month as an agent and you're only making 10 and you keep trying the same thing over and over again, it's probably costing you 40 grand to not have the right information or the right system. Right? Mm-hmm. So how long are you going to continue to pay down this ignorant tax of $40,000 before you actually step up and figure out the right way to invest? So it really just comes back down to you focusing on the prospect. And then probably the biggest thing, which is the most difficult, is you have to remove all attachment to the sale and the outcome.
Yeah.
Whether they buy from you or not, right? You need to remove that out of the way. And I say it all the time, you know, it's not going to really change my life, but if I can help you do this, right? This is going to mean everything for you. And when you have the power to insinuate or to say that, right, it removes this resistance of this person needs me in order to make a sale in order to fund their life. And removing all expectations of making a sale allows you to be present with the person, ask the questions, and really dive deep. Right. A lot of times we skim over things that people say instead of going like a couple levels deep. Oh, so you were in an accident, in a trucking accident. Oh man, that's terrible. Would you have something in place? Man, well, what would happen if you would have been out of work for 6 months as opposed to just 6 weeks? What would you guys have been able to do? So it's safe to say that, man, there's a chance that could happen again. I mean, what would your family do if that were like, you got to go deeper in that situation.
How does that make you feel?
Yes. How does that make you feel?
Right.
What type of position? Because we need to walk. So here's a cool thing. In the mind can't tell whether it actually is happening right now or if it's something that you're imagining, which is why trauma is so prevalent, where, if people have fears of something, they could be on land. If they're afraid of water, they could feel like they're having anxiety from drowning. So when you have a conversation with somebody and you have them walk through what it would be like if the scenario didn't go the way that they had planned, in their mind, they're playing out that scenario. And the brain can't tell the difference. And so when you ask those specific questions in that way, you got to go really deep and have them paint a picture of what that would look like. And now, the only thing you got to do is not talk too much, explain away their concerns, and then show them the best option that makes sense for them logistically, right? Logically, and then ask them to take action. And then that's another thing is most agents don't ask for the sale. They don't ask.
You got to ask, right?
Yes. Even if they're like, I need to think about, I understand that. But, what if we just got started today? Like sometimes people just don't even ask. And you would be surprised that sometimes a smoke screen and they're like, yeah, right. You're right. I've been putting this off. Let's go ahead and get this done.
Right. We literally just had that, and I think it really does. I loved your point where agents are skimming over stuff. Ali Sala was just on the call yesterday for Tuesday training with Tony and was talking about something very similar to this, right? Where, his wife's talking to this lady about going shopping and nobody likes to take her shopping because she's so slow. And she's like, I'll take you shopping, like, because I love to shop, right? And just asking the good questions, right? And I think that so many agents, because of you're right, because I think so many people have that attachment to the sale, to that revenue, right? To that dollar sign at the end of it, that they cruise so fast through it, trying to get to that, right? To that point B where it's like, okay, my money, that they're actually losing more sales because of how fast they're trying to get to the dollar, right? They're thinking, well, I'll just cruise through it and I'll be able to see more people and make more money. And this is like, it's kind of like your cost of inaction, right? Where it's like, well, but if you're not taking action within each of these households and asking the right questions, how much is it actually costing you? You may have 1,000 more appointments than somebody, but then your sales could be shit because you're just like, let me hit, or it's all automation and chat GPT, right? And it's like, I got all these appointments, and it's like, no, you don't. I love that,
for
man.
sure.
So
and one more point on that is that, and that's why one of my first big events, because I do a mastermind with like high level, but a big one for like beginner agents, we're going to be doing a 7-figure sales summit, and it's going to have some of the best agents in the business, and we're just going to be going over this mastery piece, right? Practicing different scenarios and really immersing those agents that are looking to get better. Because the truth is your biggest expense in your business isn't leads, it isn't business overhead, it's lost sales. How many sales are just walking out of the door because when the ball's passed to you in the last 3 seconds of the game, right? You might not even take the shot, or 2, you take the shot and it airballs or you miss. Right. So that's what we're going to be focusing on going into the end of 2023 and
take some time, man. Share that. Do you have like dates and stuff like that? Feel free to share that.
Yeah. So I'm still trying to solidify a couple of spaces. I'll share some stuff with you offline. But that just made me think about the 7-figure sales summit because a lot of times people don't really realize that. And it's because they're still trying to figure out the whole lead game, right? They're jumping from lead vendor to lead vendor. And that's the game that the beginner agents, 92% that fail, is they never master that part, which is you don't have a lead problem, because once you start getting leads, I've seen it. People who've done 30, 40,000 that go to 100K. And it's because, right, they haven't mastered that next art of communication, right? They've just been doing it with brute force. So we're like, oh, we need to show people a different way to get the same result more efficiently. Because when you do it the question-based framework that I just mentioned, you're talking 20% of the time and the prospect's talking 80% of the time. It's the other way around. The agent's doing all the talking and like all of this, and the person is not even really paying attention. They're just trying not to be rude to cut you off, and they're thinking in their head, I'm never going to buy from this person because all he's doing is talking about him, right? And so we're going to be doing the 7-Figure Sales Summit probably in November, and here in Nashville is going to be absolutely amazing. Some previous guests that we've had come to our mastermind. Nate Offord is going to be at this one coming up soon. Brian Mendenhall, Cody Askins, John Wetmore was at the last mastermind.
That's one.
Alex Brandon came and talked about how to make more sales with automation. So this 7-Figure Sales Summit is going to be freaking awesome, man.
When is that again?
I'm still solidifying the day, but I think it's going to be the first weekend in November. But you guys will be the first to know.
Yeah, definitely let us know. And I love what you said, or you've said it several times. You actually opened early with this, right? To be interested in your prospect, to be interested in your customer. And I've heard it said in a very simple way, because agents get caught up with this all the time, and it's a matter of ego problems. But the best way I've ever heard it put is to be interested, not interesting. Right? We spend a lot of time trying to press people and make ourselves look interesting instead of just be interested in them. Find out what they like to do. Find out what their needs are, their likes, their wants. The truth is, people love to talk about themselves.
Yes.
You just have to get it started by feeding them a few little lines and start letting the line
stranger.
run.
Yeah, that's why you're mastering a stranger. You get people talking. There's two schools. So you ever been to a networking event where it's like the person come up to you and they're just talking about what they do, and you just like spend the rest of the time with your cocktail just avoiding them around the room, or the people that you end up having a good conversation with you and you think it's a good conversation, but it's because you talked about yourself the entire time and you actually get back to that person. It's the same thing. If you can get somebody, if you master a stranger to get them to start sharing a little bit about themselves, that's what they want to you, and they start to trust you, right? Because it's about them as opposed to you. So now they realize that the situation that they're in is about them. Their best interest is there, because just all you're doing is you're talking about them. So that's a huge point. And then the being interested. I learned this from my kids, man. My son is 2 years old, and he's about to be 3. And man, he is the most fearless. But more important than that, I notice he's just so curious. Just a childlike curiosity. He's just going to get into everything. And I think that as we get as adults, like we stop getting curious about other people and we just start focusing on ourselves. But the truth is like, if you want like to have success in business, like all the money that you're looking to get is in other people's pockets. So if you keep focusing on yourself, like you're going to be stuck in your situation. You have to be interested in other people to see if you can solve their problem. And if you solve other people's problem and it's more valuable than the money that they have, they'll happily exchange it for you.
Absolutely.
It's good, man. Dude, it's so funny. You said that, the people that at the networking event, I'm like, oh shit, dude. I instantly had like 5 names pop into my head. And I'm like, I know exactly who you're talking about. Like, no comment. Speaking of networking events, we actually have a baller agent hangout going down August 25th this month. Where kind of you're talking about networking, where we break down all the agendas. It's literally come hang out, right? And just breaking going back to Josh's question, like really breaking down those defensive walls. Like, guys, we're literally hanging out, eating, having some drinks, some education, whatever, just hanging out, right, and getting around like-minded people. And so I guess with that, man, just take the last couple of minutes here. Just what all are your services? I know we've been doing a lot of shop talk, which this has been amazing. What are your services? How can people reach out? How can you help them? And just feel free to close it out with that.
Okay. So really easy to connect with me, man. I don't really have anything to sell, so I'll just kind of leave the breadcrumbs out there because I just wanted to come and add some value. But I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. So you can connect with me on Instagram at Arturo Johnson Consulting, and then on YouTube at Arturo Johnson, throwing up brand new trainings and cutting edge things in the industry. I just did a video A to Z of how to get leads to call you, and then Johnny Nidafin and myself did an amazing sales training. Definitely want to get that one. It is a writer down there. He was just absolutely on fire. And so you guys can connect with me that way. I do leads, IULs, but more importantly, I'm just looking for that agent that's hungry and serious. They're looking to take their business to the next level. A lot of people have trainings inside the organization, but a lot of the innovation, and if you want to like break through the package, you're going to have to get outside and get some external information and then bring that back and innovate into your business. So if anybody's looking for any of that stuff, you can check out my Instagram or my YouTube. Joe, again, you and Tony, man, you guys are doing something absolutely amazing. Anything y'all need from me, I'll be happy to be a part of it and show up.
Thank you.
This has been great.
Well,
yeah, dude,
we certainly appreciate you joining us, man. I remember when you and I met the first time was actually at a mastermind event, one of Cody's events. I can't remember which city we were in at the time. I don't remember, it was Houston, but maybe I don't remember. But I remember getting to meet you, and I think one of your partners was with you, if I remember right. But I appreciate you coming and hanging out with the syndicate. Certainly appreciate you jumping on the show and drop some value. So
always,
much obliged, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, man, that is it for our show today. Give this man a call if you need some help, if you need a little coaching, a little consulting, a little figure out your lead game, your strategy, maybe your communication skill set. As always, man, we run this show every Wednesday live right here from Austin. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go subscribe, because these videos get pushed out there where they live forever. And you can always go back and regurgitate the content, share it, whatever you want to do. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Arturo.
Remember, y'all.
Thank you, Joe.
It's the peak of the week, right? Let's keep it going. Keep the foot on the pedal. And we got implementation, unification, communication, and get imaginative, baby. Start using that imagination, right? And really, when you're using that, get out there and actually execute too, right? It ain't a bad idea. It might just be the wrong time. So keep trying. We love you guys. Thank you guys so much. Thank you again, Arturo. Hope everybody has an amazing rest of your Wednesday. Keep winning. Lady out.
God bless.